Hey folks, welcome back to part 2 of this 3-part tutorial series where we learn how to model and render this product animation of this perfume bottle. So without further ado, let's get to it. Leaving off from the last tutorial, part 1, we modelled this lid and I forgot to model the base of the lid, like under here. Also, we're going to be modelling this band around the outside and we're going to be adding the text. To add the text, we're going to go to Edit, Preferences, and we're going to go to File Paths. On File Paths, you'll see this section called Fonts. So what you want to do is locate the directory for your fonts and click this folder here and add the directory to your fonts, and then click Save Preferences. So continuing forward, we're going to model the base of this lid. So I'm going to select the lid. I'm then going to go into Edit Mode, Vertex Select Mode, and then I'm going to Shift Alt select this edge loop here. I'm then going to hit E for Extrude, S for Scale, and we'll scale it down. I'm going to go into Top View. I'm going to select X-ray mode, and then with that loop selected I'm going to hit right click, loop tools, circle, just so we got some nice topology to work with. I'm then going to go into front face view. I'm going to go out of edit mode. I'm also going to take out or go out of X-ray mode for the minute. I'm going to select this reference image. I'm going to mute it from viewport and from render. I'll then select the lid, hit G for grab, Z, control, and I'm going to snap it to the model there. I'll go back into edit mode, X-ray mode, sorry, and then go into edit mode, and then I'm going to scale these vertices down so they just reach the outer rim of this inner piece here. I'll hit E for extrude, Z, and I'm going to bring it up to around about there. I'm then going to hit E and S to scale it down. I'm then going to hit E and Z to bring that up. I'm then going to hit E and S to scale that down. I'll go into top view mode. I'm going to hit Control F for grid fill, select grid fill. Again, I don't like the alignment of that, so we'll change it so the topology is nice. This is going to create a few problems with the bevel modifier, so I'm going to mute the bottle, mute the liquid, mute the spray, and we'll look underneath. As you can see, the bevel modifier is added on all the vertices. It's a quick fix, so we'll just go into edit mode. I'm going to hit Control R to add a loop cut in these places here. I'm then going to select that loop, select this loop, and this one. I will then hit C for circle select, and then left click those vertices there. In vertex group settings, we're going to remove the vertex group, remove it from the vertex group for the bevel modifiers, come out of edit mode, and it should be smooth as butter. Excellent. Right, we'll work on the band now. So I'm going to select the perfume bottle. I'm then going to go into face select mode. So I'm selecting faces here. I'll then hit Shift Out and select those face loops and those face loops. I'm then going to hit Shift D to duplicate that. I'll hit P for separate, and then select by selection. I'll then select that band. We'll come over here to the modifiers. I'm going to select the solidify modifier. You want the solidification to happen on the outside. And then maybe I think we should be dragging it up one notch there as well. Yeah, excellent. That will do for the band. For the text, it should be fairly simple, so with this option selected, I'm going to go into edit mode. I'll just mute the solidify. I'm going to select that center vertex there, and I'm going to hit Shift S, Shift S, and then cursor to selected. So when we add the text, it will snap to that point there. So Shift A, add text. By default, the text always generates in this orientation, so easy fix. So I'm going to hit RX90, and then in the font selection, I'm then going to do the alignment to center, and I'll do the alignment for the vertical to middle. I'm then going to go into edit mode. We'll delete that text, and why not, I'll just type in Blender. Gonna scale that down. Blender Cologne. Good-o. We can change the font to anything of our choosing. You can download free fonts or paid fonts if you want, but for now, let's just select one. I quite like Arial, so I might go for Arial. Arial Black. There you go. I'll scale that up as well. I'm going to add a bit of geometry to it, so we open up the geometry tab here. I'm going to select a bit of bevel on there and some extrusion. We'll go into side view. We'll probably have to bring that forward a bit actually. We don't want it extruding too much, so just a hint of extrusion. And then I'm going to hit G, Y, and we'll bring that out around about there. I'm then going to hit Shift C to put the cursor to the center of the world, and then I'm going to select the pivot point to 3D cursor. I'm then going to hit Alt D. The reason I'll hit Alt D is because it makes instances of the original, so if I make any changes in this one, for example, it'll happen to all the instances that's generated from it. So with the instance, I'm going to hit, and the pivot point of where the cursor is, I'm going to hit RZ90, and then that should align perfectly with the other side. So Alt D again, RZ90, and one last time, Alt D, RZ90, and it should be on every face. Right, now we can move on to the materials. Materials are going to be fairly simple. There are a couple of workarounds, especially for the perfume material itself and the glass bottle. Usually with one Blender renders glass in cycles. We're going to be using cycles, by the way, so it's a good idea to go to Edit, Preferences, go to System, and then select your GPU. If you haven't got a GPU, you can still use CPU, but take in mind it's going to take a bit longer to render. Yeah, so let's get on with the materials. Like I say, I'm going to make a workaround because cycles doesn't really render glass too well, because in the real life, when light hits the glass, it's literally bouncing an infinite amount of times, and your eyes can pick that up quite well. Whereas in a render engine, you just can't calculate infinite amounts of bounces, because it would literally take forever. I am going to adjust some of my settings though. So for sampling, for light paths, I'm going to turn my transmission onto 32 and my transparency onto 32. With that, you go into look dev mode and you get these three HDRIs. We can take the blur off so you can see what's happening a bit, but when you go into cycles, You can also use those same 3 HDRIs. All you have to do is deactivate scene world and deactivate scene lights, and then you get the same set of HDRIs as what you do in look dev mode. Right, so from here I'm going to open up the material editor. I might just turn my passes down a bit for viewport, so it'll be a bit quicker. So on the viewport I'll just hit 512. There you go. So I'm going to mute everything except for the liquid. So I'm going to mute the bottle, I'm going to mute the band, mute the lid, mute the spray. I'll keep the text there. So with the liquid selected, I'm then going to hit new material on the shader editor. I'm going to delete the default principal BSDF. I'm going to add shader glass, add shader transparent, add shader mix. So with the default glass, as you can see, you're getting a lot of black artifacts here because it doesn't calculate infinite bounces. So we're going to add the glass shader to the top socket on the mix shader. We're going to add the transparent on the bottom shader. I'm then going to add the mix shader into the material output, and to tell Blender where to bounce the light, I'm going to add a node called the input light paths, I believe it is. Yep, light path. It's a very good node actually, really handy. It's worth studying this a bit more. If there's any YouTube tutorials on this, it's really handy. So I'm going to take the glossy ray, or glossy depth, I'm going to add that into the mix shader, and that will get rid of any black artifacts. It also speeds up render times, which is great. I'm also going to duplicate that mix shader again, and then I'm going to add the glass BSDF into the bottom socket of the mix shader, and I'll have that at around a value of 0.95. And for the coloration of the... Oh, my computer's lagging a bit. For the coloration of the perfume, I'm going to add a shader volume absorption. I'm then going to stick that into the volume and change the hue to, well, it's Blender, isn't it, this one, so we'll make it orange. And maybe the density of 2, that's a bit too high, 1.5. I'll adjust the hue a bit. And that's going to be the liquid shader. So for the next shader, for the glass, it's pretty much the same. Hang on, actually for the liquid I'm going to change the index of refraction slightly higher. So I'm going to go 2.5. It's a bit too high, maybe just 2. The next one is going to be pretty much the same setup, apart from without the volume element. So I'm going to box select all these nodes here, make sure I've got an active selected node. I'm going to hit Control C for copy, and then I'm going to mute the liquid, unmute the glass bottle. I'm going to add a new shader. I'm going to delete the principal BDSF, and then I'm going to hit Control V to paste those nodes that we created, connect that up to the surface, and then for the index of refraction I'm going to turn that down slightly, maybe to 1.4. So then in combination, so hang on, let's just check out. Yep, okay, so in combination with the liquid we get a reasonably satisfactory shader setup there. I'm quite happy with that. For the perfume lid, we're going to be using a metallic element. So I'm going to select the lid. I'm going to hit new for a new material. I'm going to turn the metallic all the way up to a roughness of around 0.25, and we'll make that nice bright vibrant orange. I'm also going to use the same material for the lid as I do for the text. So I'll select the text, I'll choose that material, and it should apply to all of the materials, because all the texts were Alt D, which are instances, so you know whatever material we use for one is going to affect all of them. I'm then going to open up this band which we had. I'm going to create a new material for this band, and we're going to make this gold. Now you can go onto Google and look at the hex value for gold, which is a colour, the hex number here, but I've actually made a node group, which is, oh, it's not here, never mind. So I'm just going to wing it. We'll just give it a slight goldy colour here. Again, this is going to be metallic. I'm going to give it a value of 0.333 on the roughness. Actually, it's not shiny enough. Oh, that was the specular. Sorry, my bad. On the roughness, 0.333. No, still not shiny enough. 0.15. There we go. Actually, I'll make it a tiny bit rougher. Maybe 0.2. There you go. So then I'm going to hide the perfume lid for the moment, and then bring the sprayer back into the viewport. I'm going to use the same material for the spray. It's actually going to be two materials because I've got this tube here. So for the sprayer, it's going to be material 3, which is the same material as this band going around. I'm going to go to the sprayer and add another material. So click new. I'm going to keep it as a principled BSDF. I'll keep the roughness at around 0.5. I'll keep it white as well, but I'm going to have to hide the perfume bottle and the liquid, and then I will go into edit mode. I'll select one vertice, and while holding my crosshair over the plastic tube, I'm going to hit L, which will select the whole tube. Then I'll click assign. I'll go out of edit mode and I'll just check that the changes have been done. Yep, excellent. So they've been done. Bring everything back to the viewport. I might... No, actually, I'm happy with that. Maybe just brighten up that blender colour here. I'll turn the roughness of that up as well to 0.333. It'll just react a bit better to light, and we'll brighten it up as well, so it's nice and vibrant. I could tweak the liquid a bit as well. Yep, I'm kind of happy with that. You can make it whatever colours you like. You can, you know, change the name of it. This is just an example. So from here, I'm now going to add the pedestal for which the perfume bottle sits on. Fairly straightforward. It's just a cylinder with a bevel modifier. So Shift A, add mesh cylinder. I'm then going to go into edit mode. I'm going to hit G, Z and hold control to snap it to the base. What you don't want is the actual base to be intersecting with the bottle, so I'll go out of edit mode quick. I'm then going to snap this down. Oh, is it touching? Oh no, there's a tiny gap there. So what you're aiming for is to have a tiny gap between the model and the base, because if the two faces are touching each other, it will come up with black spots and black lines as a render error, because no faces should be, you know, intersecting. So that avoids that situation there. I'm going to hit Z shade smooth. It looks a bit weird at the moment, but when we add the bevel modifier, it should sort that problem out. So I'm going to decrease the amount of bevel to maybe 0.05. I'm going to turn up the segments to 4. And I'm going to actually use the same material for this cylinder as I did the inner tube inside here. So that will be material number 4, so it's just white. I'm then going to activate my camera. I'm going to position my camera. I could do it landscape, I could do it portrait. It depends what kind of content you want, what you're creating it for. If you're doing vertical, I'm going to do landscape for the moment. I'm also primarily going to add a cylinder here, which is going to contribute to the lighting somewhat. So I'll model that in this one, and then we'll end the tutorial and flip into the next one, which will be about lighting and animation. So from here, I'm going to Shift A, add mesh circle. I'm then going to hit RX90. I'm then going to go into front face view. I'm going to go into edit mode, select all the vertices and scale them up, so hitting S. I'm going to drag the circle up by hitting G, Z and Control, so it's kind of centered. Go into edit mode, just scale it up a little bit more, and maybe a little bit more, and then I'm going to hit E, S to scale. I'm going to drag it up a tiny bit more, to round about there. I want a little bit of intersection here. From here, I'm just going to hit Control A, just make sure that my scale is applied. I'm also going to hit Control 2, which will add a subdivision surface at level 2. I'm going to go to my modifiers and add a solidify modifier. Instead of protruding out in one direction, I want it in both directions. So on the offset, I'm going to hit 0, go into side view, go into X-ray view, and we'll take this out to say 4 meters. I'll be happy with that. We're going to use the same material for this item as we did the cylinder, but before I do that, I just want to take this outer edge loop here, and we're going to scale this out a bit more. So select that and scale it out. Oh, we're scaling from the cursor. Okay, so we've made a big mistake here, guys. I'm going to delete that. We're going to do this again. Shift A, mesh circle, RX90, scale that up. Oh, before we scale, we're going to change the pivot point, this was a mistake, to median point. So I go into edit mode, I'm going to scale this up, go out of edit mode, bring that up, and then go into edit mode again, ES, scale it inward. And then out of edit mode, G, Z. So bring it to around there. Then we'll go to the modifiers. We're going to go to solidify. Again, we want a 0 offset. And then we're going to bring that out to 4. And then Control 2. Z, shade smooth. We'll bring up the subdivision surface up to the top. In fact, I'll apply the subdivision surface. We're going to apply the solidify modifier, and then I should probably delete these edge loops actually, because there's no need for them. So I'm going to hit Shift out, select these edge loops here, and then hit Control X, which dissolves the edge loops. Do the same for this side. Control X to dissolve edge loops. Then we're going to add a bevel modifier, 0.05, and we'll have 4 cuts. From here, I'm going to add a loop cut in dead center. I'm then going to hit Control B to bevel, probably around about there. I'm then going to hit E, S and Shift Y because I don't want to scale on the Y axes, I just want to scale on the X and Z. So add that around there. For the materials, the base material is going to be the same as this cylinder, so we'll select that material there, which was number 4, and we're also going to add another material which is going to be an emissive material to help light the scene. So we're going to hit plus, new material, we're going to cycles view for this. Oh, hang on, not yet, let's just make sure that this face loop has that material. And then I'm going to select the principal BSDF, delete that, Shift A, add shader emission. So then when we view that, it should be emissive material. It will help light it up. And if I take the HDR right off, you'll kind of see what it's doing there. It's creating a nice rim light. We can change, you know, the brightness and whatnot. I'll probably have it on a strength of 2. I'll go back to scene world. I'm quite happy with that so far. So that does it for part 2. I look forward to seeing you in part 3, where we finish the lighting and we animate the actual scene itself as well. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Feel free to leave any suggestions and comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.